I explored an abandoned mall. Now I'm trapped inside. The entrance is one way. The mall had been abandoned for nearly a decade. It stood on the outskirts of town, a decaying relic of the past, swallowed by time and neglect. People whispered rumors about the place, stories of strange figures in the windows, flickering lights despite the absence of electricity, and a lingering sense of something watching. I never put much stock in urban legends. That was until I found myself standing at its chained-up doors one cold October night, flashlight in hand, the weight of my own curiosity pressing me forward. The plan was simple: explore, document, and leave. I had seen dozens of videos about places like this. Urban explorers walking through forgotten malls, discovering eerie remnants of the past. I figured this would be no different. But as I soon learned, this place wasn't just abandoned. It was waiting. The entrance. I climbed through a broken side window, my boots crunching on shattered glass as I slipped inside. The air was thick, stagnant, carrying the scent of mildew and something faintly metallic. The main entrance loomed in the distance, a set of massive glass doors covered in grime. The once polished tile floors were now cracked and overgrown with patches of moss, nature reclaiming what was left behind. I flicked on my flashlight, scanning the cavernous interior. Empty storefronts gaped like hollowed-out skulls, their signs barely legible. A lone, toppled mannequin lay on the floor, its arms twisted at unnatural angles. A forgotten food court stretched into darkness, tables and chairs overturned as if people had left in a hurry. That's when I saw it. Something out of place. The main directory map in the center of the mall was pristine. Unlike the rest of the mall, covered in dust and decay, the map was perfectly clean. Someone had been here. Or worse, someone still was. The first sign. I moved closer, my breath hitching in my throat. The map had markings, black, uneven lines scrawled across its surface. At first, I thought they were just graffiti, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized they were words. Follow the rules. Beneath it, a list of instructions had been hastily scratched in. Rule number 1, do not enter any store with a lit, open sign. Rule number 2, if you hear whistling, do not move. Do not breathe. Rule number 3, the security guard is not your friend. Rule number 4, you must leave before the mall closes. I felt a cold prickle down my spine. This had to be a joke, some elaborate prank by other explorers trying to scare people off. Still, the atmosphere, the sheer silence of the place, made it hard to shake the growing sense of unease curling in my gut. I forced a chuckle. All right, I muttered to myself. Let's see what's so scary about this place. Shadows in the aisles. I wandered deeper into the mall, passing a series of dead storefronts. Some still had mannequins staring blankly from behind the glass, their faces peeling, their plastic eyes somehow too focused. The occasional echo of dripping water punctuated the silence, making it feel as though the building itself was breathing. That's when I noticed the first anomaly. A clothing store, its sign barely hanging on by a rusted chain, had its lights on. Not flickering, not dim, fully illuminated, as if it had never been abandoned. The neon, open, sign buzzed faintly against the glass. My gut told me to ignore it. My curiosity told me otherwise. I crept closer, peering inside. The store looked untouched. Racks of clothes neatly folded, displays still arranged as though expecting customers. But something about it felt wrong. The air around it was too still, like stepping into a vacuum. Then movement. A shifting shadow at the back of the store. I stepped away fast, pulse hammering. The list. Rule number 1. Do not enter any store with a lit, open sign. I walked away briskly, resisting the urge to look back. Whatever was inside that store, I didn't want to find out. The security guard. I turned a corner and nearly stumbled over my own feet. A security guard stood in the middle of the corridor, his back facing me. His uniform was crisp, untouched by dust or decay. But something was off. His posture was too stiff, his head cocked at an unnatural angle. I barely had time to react before he moved. Not walked, not turned, moved. One moment, he was standing still. The next, he was a few feet closer. I took a step back, my heartbeat a wild drum in my chest. Rule number 3. The security guard is not your friend. I forced myself to remain calm. "Hey man," I said, voice unsteady. Didn't think anyone was still working here. Silence. The security guard's head jerked slightly, as if acknowledging me. Then, slowly, his arm began to rise, finger pointing toward something behind me. I turned. Nothing but darkness. When I looked back, the guard was gone. A deep chill spread through my limbs. I needed to leave. Now, the whistling. I hurried toward the entrance, weaving through the ruined remnants of the mall. I wasn't interested in exploring anymore. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't natural. Then I heard it. A soft, melodic whistle echoing through the corridors. The sound sent ice through my veins. Rule number 2. If you hear whistling, do not move. Do not breathe. I froze. My lungs burned as I forced myself not to inhale, not to make a sound. The whistling grew closer. A figure emerged from the far end of the corridor. Not walking, not running, gliding. It had no face, just a stretched, empty void where features should have been. And it was coming straight for me. I couldn't hold my breath anymore. My body screamed for oxygen, panic clawing at my throat. And then I gasped. The figure snapped its head toward me. I ran. I didn't care where I was going, didn't care about rules or warnings. I just ran, my footsteps echoing wildly in the dead mall. The entrance. It was just ahead. I could see the broken window I had crawled through. Salvation. I lunged forward and slammed into glass. The window was gone. The opening I had come through, sealed shut. I pounded against the glass, my own reflection staring back at me, wide-eyed and horrified. The mall had changed. It wasn't letting me leave. And somewhere behind me, the whistling began again. The store that shouldn't exist. I slammed my fist against the glass again and again, but it was solid, completely intact. The window I had crawled through was gone, replaced by a seamless, undisturbed surface. My reflection stared back at me, pale and panicked. My breath fogged up the glass as I searched desperately for any kind of exit, but the mall had changed. Behind me, the whistling continued. Slow, taunting, growing closer. I had no choice. I ran. Nowhere left to go. My footsteps echoed in the dead mall, bouncing off the rotting walls like a chorus of ghosts. The mall's layout was warping. I could feel it. Stores that I had passed earlier were now missing, corridors stretching longer than they should, doors appearing where none had been before. I turned a corner, heart pounding, and came face to face with a department store I knew wasn't here when I arrived. It wasn't just new, it was pristine. Bright fluorescent lights flickered above polished tile floors. The entrance was wide open, mannequins in crisp new outfits, standing in perfect formation, their blank faces turned toward me. And worst of all, the open sign was glowing. I skidded to a stop. Rule number 1. Do not enter any store with a lit, open sign. A gust of cold air whispered from inside, carrying the scent of something sweet and sickly, like perfume gone stale. The whistling was getting closer. I had two choices: stay out here and let whatever was following me find me, or break the rule and enter the store. I hesitated for only a second before stepping inside. The mannequins are watching. The moment I crossed the threshold, The sound changed. The distant hum of the mall disappeared. The echo of my own footsteps gone. It was as if I had stepped into a vacuum, a different world entirely. Rows of mannequins stretched into the aisles, all standing at stiff, unnatural angles. Some wore casual clothing, others expensive suits or dresses. Their blank, featureless faces all turned in my direction. I swallowed hard, moving deeper into the store. The whistling had stopped, but somehow I knew whatever had been chasing me was still out there. I needed to find another way out. The elevator that shouldn't work. A sign caught my eye near the back of the store. Stairs to parking garage. Exit this way. I practically ran toward it. But as I reached the stairwell door, I froze. The mannequins had moved. They were no longer standing in neat rows. They were closer. Some had turned toward the door I had just entered from. Others now had their hands outstretched, as if reaching for something or someone. I spun back toward the stairwell. Locked. Panic flared in my chest. There had to be another way out. To my right, an elevator dinged softly. I turned my flashlight toward it. The doors slid open, revealing a dimly lit interior. I knew better than to trust it, but the mannequins were moving. They weren't just shifting when I looked away. They were actively stepping toward me. I didn't think. I sprinted into the elevator and jammed the closed door button. The mannequins broke into sudden, jerky movement. I saw their arms reaching, fingers curling as the door slid shut. Then darkness. Something else is here. The elevator wasn't moving. I pressed the buttons frantically. Nothing. The floor indicator above the door flickered between numbers erratically. 1, 3, 7, 1, 5. Something was wrong. The air inside the elevator was thick, suffocating. My own breathing sounded too loud, too isolated. Then I heard it. A slow, shuffling movement behind me. I wasn't alone. A sickening dread coiled in my stomach. I hadn't turned around when I entered the elevator. I had just assumed, prayed, that it had been empty. I clenched my jaw, every muscle in my body screaming at me not to turn around. But I did. The back wall of the elevator was gone. Instead, there was a long, dark hallway stretching endlessly into the void. The walls were lined with glass display cases, mannequins trapped inside them, their featureless faces pressed against the glass. And in the distance, deep in the hallway, something was crawling toward me. Not walking, crawling. Its limbs were too long, its movements jerky and unnatural, like a puppet with tangled strings. The elevator suddenly lurched. The doors slammed shut, and I was thrown against the wall as it plummeted. The mall wants me to stay. The descent was violent. The light overhead flickered erratically as the elevator shuddered and groaned. It felt like it was falling forever. Then, silence. The door slid open. I staggered out, heart hammering, barely able to stay on my feet. But the mall was different. The air was thicker. The lights overhead flickered weakly, casting long, shifting shadows. The storefronts weren't just abandoned now. They were rotting. Walls pulsed like living flesh. The tiles beneath my feet cracked and damp. A sick realization settled in. I wasn't in the same mall anymore. I had gone deeper. The escalators that led to nowhere. I turned, searching desperately for anything familiar. The directory map in the center of the corridor was still there, except now it was covered in new rules. Dozens of them, scribbled frantically in different handwriting, some messages overlapping others, some scratched out as if they were no longer useful. One stood out: do not go down the escalators. They do not lead where you think. I turned slowly. At the end of the corridor, two massive escalators stretched downward into pitch darkness. They weren't moving, but I could hear something shifting below, something breathing. And then, from deep within the darkness beneath them. The whistling began again. I took a step back, but my foot landed on something soft. I looked down. A severed mannequin hand lay at my feet, fingers twitching slightly. My body went cold. The mall was alive. It wasn't just keeping me here. It was changing, adapting, hunting. And now, the escalators were starting to move. Downward, toward whatever was waiting for me in the abyss. The escalators to nowhere. The escalators groaned to life, their metal steps rattling as they descended into a pit of utter darkness. I took a step back. The sign had warned me, do not go down the escalators. They do not lead where you think. But the mall was changing. It had already shifted once, twisting itself into something alien, something that wanted me to stay. And now, I had no choice but to keep moving. Behind me, the hallway stretched into an endless maze of flickering lights and shifting shadows. The stores I had passed earlier were melting, their signs unreadable, their windows warping like liquid. Then, from below, the whistling began again. Slow, melodic, taunting. It was closer. I turned back toward the escalators. Descent into the abyss. I hesitated for only a second before stepping onto the metal steps. The moment my foot touched the surface, a cold shock spread through my body, like I had just stepped into something alive. The escalator carried me down, the overhead lights growing dimmer with every second. My breathing was too loud, echoing in the empty void around me. I gripped the rubber handrail, but it felt wrong. Slick, warm, like skin. I yanked my hand away. The descent stretched longer than it should have. My stomach twisted with the unnatural feeling of going down for too long. Something was shifting below. Then, the smell hit me. Rot. Thick, wet decay. Like something had been festering down here for years. My flashlight barely cut through the thick darkness. The walls around me were no longer tiled. They were pulsing, like flesh. I wanted to run, to turn back, but the escalator wouldn't stop. The whistling grew louder. I wasn't alone down here. The things that watch from the dark. The escalator finally jerked to a stop. I stumbled forward, barely catching myself. The floor beneath me was wrong. It wasn't solid tile anymore. It was soft, spongy. Every step I took made a wet, squelching sound. I turned, aiming my flashlight into the void. A massive, empty corridor stretched ahead, its walls covered in what looked like breathing veins. The storefronts were no longer abandoned. They were filled with shapes, figures. At first, I thought they were mannequins again, but these were different. They were watching me. Their heads twitched as I moved, their bodies stiff but aware. I took a slow step forward. The figures in the storefronts turned their heads in unison. Their mouths opened, and then all at once, they screamed, "Run!" The sound was deafening, high-pitched, like static and distorted voices layered on top of each other. I bolted. The corridor stretched longer and longer the faster I ran. The figures behind the glass slammed their hands against the windows, their mouths still wide with that horrifying, unnatural scream. The sound rattled in my skull, made my vision blur. My flashlight flickered. The lights above me were dying, one by one. And then, something grabbed my wrist. A hand, but not human. It was cold, slippery, too long. I screamed, yanking myself free. The thing that had grabbed me skittered back into the darkness, moving on too many limbs. I didn't stop to see what it was. I just ran. The mall is feeding. I reached a massive, rusted security gate at the end of the corridor. The lock had been snapped clean off, like something had torn its way inside. Beyond it, I saw a sign. Food court. I pushed through. The air changed instantly. The stench of rot was stronger here. The tables and chairs were toppled over, plates of untouched food rotting on trays. And in the center of the food court, there was a pit. Massive, deep, breathing. The edges of the pit were lined with teeth. I staggered back. Then I heard it. A low, wet growl from behind me. Something big was moving in the darkness. I wasn't supposed to be here. It seized me. I turned slowly. From the shadows, something stepped forward. It was the first time I had seen it fully. The thing that had been following me since I entered the mall. It was tall, impossibly thin. Its body stretched like a marionette with missing strings. Its skin was black and wet, glistening under the weak lights. Its face was wrong. No eyes, no nose, just a smiling mouth. It tilted its head at me, almost curious. Then it moved. I didn't think. I just ran. The exit that shouldn't exist. I sprinted toward the nearest hallway, barely dodging overturned tables and debris. The thing behind me was fast. It didn't run, it glided, like it wasn't touching the floor at all. The mall shifted again. Doors disappeared. Hallways warped. It was leading me somewhere. Then I saw it. A door. It was the first normal thing I had seen since I arrived in this nightmare. A regular, metal exit door, glowing with a red, emergency exit sign above it. I didn't stop to think. I grabbed the handle and threw myself inside. I'm not safe yet. The moment the door shut behind me, the sound changed. The screaming stopped. The mall was gone. I was standing in a stairwell. Normal, dusty, rusted, but real. I collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. My entire body was shaking. Had I escaped? Then, somewhere below me, deep in the stairwell, a door creaked open, and the whistling began again. The endless stairwell. The door slammed shut behind me. Silence. No more shifting hallways. No more distorted mannequins. No more thing gliding after me. For the first time since stepping into this nightmare, I felt like I had escaped. I took a shaky breath, my pulse hammering in my ears. The stairwell stretched above and below, rusted railings lining the cracked concrete steps. A weak fluorescent light flickered overhead, casting long shadows. Then, a door creaked open below me. My breath hitched. Then came the sound I had been dreading. Whistling. Slow. Off-key. Echoing up the stairwell in an eerie, taunting melody. I was not alone. Something is coming. I took a step back, my hand tightening around the rusted railing. The whistling grew louder, each note sharp and deliberate. Who was doing this? No, what was doing this? I aimed my flashlight down the stairwell. The beam barely cut through the thick darkness. Then, something moved. A shape, lurking just beyond the light's reach. It was coming up the stairs. Slow, deliberate, too tall. I didn't wait. I turned and ran, upward into madness. The stairs wound endlessly, floor after floor, but I couldn't find an exit. Every level I passed had a door, but they were all wrong. Some doors had no handles. Some had locks with scratched out numbers. Others were half-formed, like someone had started painting them into reality, but never finished. I reached for one, desperate. The doorknob pulsed under my grip. I yanked my hand away. Behind me, the whistling grew louder, closer. I didn't dare turn around. I just kept running. The man in the walls. The stairwell was warping. The concrete walls rippled like liquid, distorting the space around me. The steps beneath me stretched longer and longer, forcing me to jump just to reach the next one. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw him, or it. The walls of the stairwell had faces now, twisted, half-formed, pressed into the concrete like something was trapped inside. And one of them was looking at me. A man's face, eyes wide with terror, mouth frozen in a silent scream. Then, his lips moved. I stumbled back. Don't stop, the face in the wall rasped. He's right behind you. The door that shouldn't exist. I didn't need to be told twice. I kept going, lungs burning, legs aching. The walls around me pulsed, the faces whispering in a chorus of warning. Then, I saw it. A door at the very top of the stairwell, different from the others. This one was old, wooden, with an antique brass handle. It looked real. I lunged for it, grabbing the handle. The moment my fingers touched the metal, the whistling stopped. Silence. I swallowed hard, glancing back. Nothing was there. No figure. No shifting shadows. Just the empty, twisting stairwell. My stomach twisted. I knew better than to believe it was over. Slowly, I turned the handle and stepped inside. The heart of the mall. The door shut behind me with a dull thud. I wasn't in the stairwell anymore. I was somewhere else. The air was thick, humid. The ground beneath me wasn't tile or concrete. It was soft, wet. I lifted my flashlight, and my stomach dropped. I was standing in a massive chamber. The walls weren't walls at all, but flesh. Pulsing, breathing. Veins like thick cables ran along the ceiling, dripping a dark, viscous fluid onto the floor. The air was filled with a sickening heartbeat that rattled in my chest. At the center of the room, embedded deep in the fleshy mass of the floor, was a door. A single, normal-looking exit door. The way out. I took a cautious step forward, and then the walls shuddered. The floor beneath me convulsed. Something was waking up. It knows I'm here. The heartbeat grew faster. The walls ripped open, and from within them, something pulled itself free. It was massive, towering. Its black, skeletal form dripped with something thick and oily. Its elongated limbs stretched unnaturally, its fingers tipped with jagged claws. And its face, it had no eyes, just a mouth. A massive, gaping mouth filled with rows of teeth. It let out a deep, wet inhale. It was smelling me. The final chase. I ran. I sprinted toward the exit door, my heart slamming against my ribs. The ground beneath me twisted and warped, trying to slow me down. The creature lurched forward. I could hear it behind me, its breath wet and ragged. The door was only feet away. I threw myself forward, fingers grasping the handle. A hand wrapped around my ankle. Cold, wet, inhuman. I screamed, twisting, kicking wildly. The creature dragged me back, its grip tightening. Its face loomed closer, that gaping mouth widening. I was going to die here. The whisper that saved me. Then, the whisper came, not from the walls, not from the creature, but from inside my head. A familiar voice. Say the words. I gasped as wide. I knew this voice. It was the same voice from the mannequin in the department store. The warning. I didn't have time to think. I didn't even know what the words were. But something deep inside me did. And before I could stop myself, I screamed. The mall does not close. The door opens. The creature froze. The walls convulsed, the pulsing veins tightening like they were in pain. And then, the exit door burst open. A blinding white light poured through. The creature let out a shriek of agony, its body splitting apart at the seams. I didn't hesitate. I lunged forward and dove through the door. The other side. I hit the ground hard. Cold pavement. I gasped, coughing, my entire body trembling. I blinked against the bright neon glow above me. Then, slowly I looked up. I was outside, in the mall parking lot. The sun had risen. The mall was gone. In its place stood an empty lot. Just cracked asphalt and overgrown weeds. Like the mall had never existed at all. I was free. I let out a ragged sob, rolling onto my back. The sky above was a perfect blue, untainted by the nightmare I had just survived. But then, a shadow moved beside me, and a voice, low and familiar, whispered, "You shouldn't have left. The mall never lets you leave." The voice chilled me to the bone. "You shouldn't have left." I scrambled backward across the cracked asphalt, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The parking lot was empty. No towering structure. No twisted mannequins. No pulsing walls of flesh. But I wasn't alone. A shadow stood over me. I forced myself to look up. It was a man. Or at least, he looked like one. Tall. Gaunt. Dressed in a tattered security uniform. His name tag was scratched out, and his face was wrong. It was smooth, featureless, except for his mouth, a stretched, grinning maw filled with too many teeth. He tilted his head. "You broke the rules." I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry. What rules? I had done what I was supposed to do. I had found the exit. I had escaped. Hadn't I? I turned to look behind me again, hoping, praying, I would see the city skyline, a road, cars, anything. But the lot stretched into nothingness. An empty void, rippling at the edges like a torn film reel. I wasn't in my world anymore. I never had been. The mall had never been just a place. It was something else. Something that didn't just exist in one reality. It existed outside of time. And now so did I. The illusion of escape. I squeezed my eyes shut, heart pounding. This had to be a trick. Maybe if I ran, if I just kept running, I'd find the real world again. The security guard, or whatever it was, must have sensed my thoughts. Because before I could move, he took a step forward. And suddenly, the asphalt beneath me shifted. I looked down, and my stomach twisted. The cracks in the pavement were splitting open. And underneath, there was no ground, no earth, no foundation, just the mall. I saw the twisted mannequins standing in frozen poses, their eyeless faces turned toward me. I saw the stairwell, its walls writhing with trapped faces. I saw the creature with the gaping mouth, its massive form lurking in the shadows. They were all below me, waiting for me to fall. The choice that wasn't a choice. My mind screamed at me to move, but I was paralyzed. The security guard knelt beside me, that grin stretching wider. "You don't belong out here." His voice was so calm, so certain. "You belong inside." My body trembled as I tried to deny it. No, I was free. I had escaped. I had found the exit. Hadn't I? I looked down again, and I saw something that shattered me. Among the horrors and the depths below, I saw myself, my own body, standing in the mall's main atrium, motionless, trapped behind the glass storefront of a department store. Like a mannequin, my breath hitched. The realization sank into me like a knife. I had never escaped. I was still inside. This parking lot, this empty, endless space. It was just another level of the mall. The final descent. I let out a strangled cry as the pavement crumbled beneath me. I fell, faster, deeper, into the twisting halls, into the walls that pulsed with unseen horrors, past the flickering food court, where shadows stirred beneath overturned chairs, past the escalators, stretching into infinity, back through the doors, back inside. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was the security guard, standing at the edge of the void, watching, smiling. Then, I hit the ground, the mall's newest resident. When I woke up, the lights were on. Soft music played over the intercom. I was standing in the center of the atrium, and I wasn't alone. The mannequins surrounded me, their featureless heads all tilted in my direction. I tried to move. I couldn't. I tried to scream. I had no mouth. I was a mannequin, frozen, silent. Another display piece in the mall that never closed. I saw my reflection in the glass storefront. My own hollow, plastic face stared back at me. The music played on, soft, endless, and above me, the fluorescent lights flickered. The mall was open, and I would be here forever. The end.